Muy buenos días y bienvenidos a otro episodio más de Somos Founder Podcast. ¿Cómo están? Les saluda Edgar Navas, fundador de Clica. Y hoy tengo un invitado especial. Ya he tenido la oportunidad de conocerlo por Twitter. Benny Guadarrama de Seedscout desde Arizona. ¿Cómo estás, Benny? Buenos días.
Muy bien, muchas gracias, Edgar. Muchas gracias por tenerme. Estoy de maravilla. Aquí, it's a beautiful day in Tempe, Arizona. Very, very
Okay.
happy
Very
to be here.
No,
Yep.
man. Thanks for coming over to the show. And how's the weather? I mean, how hot it is in Arizona right now?
It's, I think as of this morning, it was like 90, 94, 95 degrees. Expected to get hotter, later in the day. But it's rained earlier this week, which is nice to see. It's always nice to have a little bit of rain.
Yeah.
But temperature's nice. You get used to it. So I love that dry heat now since I've been here my whole life. Yep.
No, that's fantastic. Yeah, we're having that kind of weather right now in Portland. A couple of 100-degree days again. For the second or third time this summer. So
Right.
it's been challenging. We're not used to that temperature, but yeah,
Yeah.
just tell me a little bit about yourself, Benny. I know you're native Arizonan, but what's your origin? What's your background? Where's your family coming from?
Of course. Yeah. I'm Benny Guadarrama, and I am a kid, a Mexican American kid, born and raised in Sedona, Arizona, which is a very magical place and is known for its beautiful mountain landscape. And my family is from Mexico. Both my parents are from Mexico. My dad being from a small village in Guerrero, and my mom being from a pueblo in Estado de Mexico,
Okay.
Tonatico, Estado de Mexico. And they both migrated to the United States at a very early age. My dad was barely 17 when he came to the United States,
Oh my
and my
gosh.
mother was 18 as well. And they were both after, you know, uh, a better vision of what their life could look like, and they wanted to be able to start a foundation for the family, and help the family and support the family in the best way they could. And so my dad, started his life out in California. He lived in California and worked in the strawberry fields. Moved up to Idaho, worked in the potato fields, and came to Arizona. He moved back to California, Lodi, and had a job there. And the company he worked at, unfortunately, I guess fortunately, because I'm here now, but
Yeah.
at the time, went out of business, and the owner had mentioned that there's a beautiful city in Arizona that you might like to go and see if you could get a job there in Sedona. My grandmother lives there, and I think she'd like to have your support, as any job. And so he said, yeah, it's interesting. And he's like, but what do I have to do in Sedona, But he made the move down, and he went to Sedona. He began his life there, and he started his landscaping business in Sedona, and he has it to this day. And you can see him, very, very hardworking, driving through the highways of Sedona to get to his jobs, and I admire him a lot. And one of the most valuable things I think he taught me is that if you take care of things, they last. And a perfect example of that is his Toyota 1-ton truck. You don't see many of those anymore. It has
Wow.
around 650,000 miles on it. He's had it since 1980, and he's been riding that thing as long as he could. And but yeah, and my mom came to Sedona when she was 18, and she started off as a nanny, and she had a lot of sisters who lived in Sedona as well. So she was, always around a supportive group. And then she started her house cleaning business, and I'd go to work with her sometimes. And I got to spend time with her there. And as I got older, I eventually got to help her and help my father as well. So yeah, that's my background
So it's just a
of
family of entrepreneurs, man. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, definitely. I'm very orgulloso to be able to say that. I have four amazing sisters also, that
You,
are,
you have four sisters. So
yes, right.
four. Wow.
Yeah,
Don't tell
right.
me you're the last one.
No, no, no. I'm right in the
Oh.
middle, right in the middle.
Because that's a Mexican dad thing. It's like, no, hasta que salga el niño.
Yeah, yeah, I'm right in the middle, and my sisters are amazing. They're ambitious. They're very talented, and they are always, striving to do their best as well. And yeah, and so I grew up in Sedona, played sports all my life, was very active in the community there, and in the sports community, and I went to community college in the nearby town where Sedona is. It's Cottonwood, Arizona, and I went to Yavapai Community College. I got my associates in business there, and my plan had always been to transfer to Arizona State University, and I applied to Arizona State University. Oddly, it's funny. I applied for marketing to have my bachelor's in marketing, and they have you, submit a second choice if you don't get into the, to marketing. And I chose technological entrepreneurship and management as my second choice, and fortunately, I didn't get into marketing. At the time, I was like, wow, I really wanted marketing. But
Yeah.
I think that ended up being a
Blessing.
blessing, in disguise. And I'm very happy. And I graduate in December, and I get my bachelor's in TEM, Technological Entrepreneurship and Management at ASU. Okay. And I'm excited. I'm going into the last semester, and I have a lot to be thankful for. Definitely.
That's nice. Well, first of all, saludos a la familia Guadarrama. That's, I mean, a great example of, what the migrant community, comes to do, just build. And it's impressive. I mean, and one of the things, I've never been to Sedona. I've heard a lot about it. Obviously, I've seen pictures on social media. It's a wonderful place, but it seems to be a little bit, and tell me if I'm wrong, because it's kind of like a wealthy enclave, or it's like because of the tourism that it attracts. So how's that growing up in Sedona, and the Sedona that you don't see in social media?
Yeah, so Sedona's is cost of living is very expensive, and it had always been like that, but more so than before. I mean, tourism in Sedona has jumped incredibly. I mean, if you were to just 10 years ago, 5 years ago, if you were to tell me that, you would be stuck in traffic for almost 2 hours, I wouldn't believe you. Back even 5-10 years ago, Sedona wasn't that well known. And growing up as a kid, you'd hardly see that many tourists. But now I go back every weekend to see the family, and now it's packed. I mean, it takes me to get from my place to the local Safeway. If there's, high traffic, it takes me about I want to say 40 minutes to an hour just to get there, which would have been maybe like a 10-minute drive just to get to Safeway. So it went up tremendously. And and because of tourism, stores, they obviously, have to charge a little bit more. But that's one of the beautiful things also about Sedona, is that we have a lot of family-owned businesses, mom and pop shops, and they help the economy circulate there for sure. But yeah, I only see it getting bigger, to be honest. I only see, I think every time on Instagram I see, there's always a post of like best 5 trails to hike in Sedona. I know this is about, I always say this is about to go viral, it's going to grow again. But I think it's good for the city of Sedona to get that attention. But man, do they got to fix that traffic. They really got to fix the traffic. Yeah, because it's only one highway, and it's only one lane, and there are roundabouts, and unfortunately a lot of people stop in the middle of the roundabouts, and
all those Californians. But anyway.
How do you know?
We had to bash him. We had to bash him. Yeah, I could see it in your eyes. Yeah, it's just like, it's the Californians. It's the same here in Oregon. Then they come here, but anyway, we got much love for our friends in Cali. But yeah, and so growing up as a Latino kid in Sedona, I mean, it's also pretty a wide, city, wealthy, wide. How many opportunities did you see growing up, or did you ever feel that like, wow, this is, my destiny is just like becoming like my mom and my dad, which is, phenomenal. I mean, owning your own business. But was there anything pushing you to like, you got to get out of here, you got to go into college and to start your own thing?
Right. So yeah, growing up a Latino in Sedona is mean, it's nice. I mean, you have a strong Latino community in Sedona too. A large part of Sedona is Latino. I remember in high school, we the school was, you know, a majority, not majority, but a large portion of the school was Latino. Growing up in Sedona, I always knew I wanted to be a business owner eventually. And I got that inspiration, like you said, from my parents. And obviously like that day still hasn't come, but I am, you know, I do want to get there one day. But yeah, by the way, I'm the first employee at Seedscout. And so, you know, the founder, Matt, has been, you know, amazing to work with. And I'll get more into that in a little bit. But in Sedona, I guess you could say I was more into sports than academics. I'll admit I was not the best student. In some years I was, in many years I just wasn't a good student. I didn't no le eché ganas tanto like I think I should have. I was more of the social guy. You know, I like to have conversation, you know, have conversations with people and just be active in sports. So college was kind of not in the cards for me at the time when I was younger. I was like, you know, I mean, my parents, you know, they said, tienes que ir a colegio, mijo, tienes que, you know, sacar a degree, and it stuck with me, and I ended up going to community college. And I think it was important for me to get a degree because I am Latino, and I think that a degree in itself, while, you know, many people maybe, you know, there's, you know, a lot of controversy, like, do you need university, do you need college, do you not? I think it's the same. It goes both ways. It depends on, you know, who you are as a person, how you like to go and approach life. I saw it that as me being a Latino, I think it could only benefit me. It could only help me. It could only, you know, give me more knowledge into where I want it to be. And opportunities such as opportunity in Sedona, I was working, you know, out of high school. Like in high school, like I said, I was just into sports and just into sports and trying to get scholarships for sports. And then I started working when I graduated from high school, and I had 3 jobs, and thankfully, you know, all those jobs were with people I knew, people I was comfortable with. I worked in for my father's business for even before high school. Actually, I worked with him. I worked with him and during the summers and on weekends, and
summer's got to be brutal landscaping outside, man, in Arizona. So that gives you that's a good crash course in life, man.
Exactly. It taught me a lot. It's brutal. It taught me the true meaning of hard work. It made me sweat. It made me, you know, realize that this is life, you know, and this is what we have to be thankful for at the same time, that we have the capability of working. And I was also a security guard at a resort in Sedona, and I was able to, you know, get that job from a friend. And that friend was someone who I coached their child on the swim team. A large part of me, I was a swim coach. I was a competitive swim coach for many years, 4 years, after having been a competitive swimmer myself for a long time. And that was one of my passions, one of my joys, just working with the kids, getting them to, you know, drop time on their events, to better their technique, for them to just enjoy the sport of swimming. Understand that water safety is super important for everyone, adults and children. And so those are the 3 jobs that I had. Like, those were the opportunities I was able to have in Sedona, and I'm thankful for them all the time, because they did teach me how to be a good listener, how to contribute to a larger mission. And yeah.
And so now I just found out we got another thing in common. I was a swimmer through college, and that was one of my jobs too, is in summertime, water safety instructor. So
Swimming's a beautiful sport, and the Olympics just happened, and I always like tuning into the swimming events, and I only I would only like more people to watch swimming outside of the Olympics because it's still a lot of fun. It's still just as intense, and but yeah, swimming, beautiful sport for sure.
There you go, another thing in common. But yeah, no, so tell us a little bit more about Seedscout. I mean, you and I met through Twitter, and I found you and Matt Sherman, the founder of Seedscout, which I think is an incredibly interesting proposition amongst the sea of things happening on Twitter on the VC world, entrepreneurship and startups. I mean, that came up, and they're like, I got to talk to these guys, see what is this all about.
Yeah, for sure. Yes. So yeah, Seedscout is building the best pre-seed, early stage database on the internet for startups on the internet. And working with Matt has been amazing. He's someone who took a chance on me, which I truly appreciate. We're both, him being an alumni of Arizona State University, me being soon to be alumni. He took that chance on me, and I was grateful for it. And we met through a mutual friend who I had interned for at his startup, and yeah, Matt. I always tell people that Matt is, and I respect him tremendously, but he's he's the craziest person I've ever worked with. he is he is very everything around him involves is very it's serendipity really, and it's a good vibrant place to work at, and it's only two of us right now, three total, including our developer, but it's two of us, and Seedscout is our mission is to help founders get access to the resources that they earn, that they deserve, and that they need. And because the startup ecosystem is becoming a lot more global than it was just a few years ago. A lot more global. Startups are everywhere. Great founders are everywhere. And we want to help the founders that are out in the world and not have to rely in only one region of a country for success to happen to a few startups. We want there to be resources for everyone. And the way I'll go back through how it all started, how Matt came to this idea. Matt's inspiration for the company was after he got rejected from YC for the ninth time he got rejected from YC, and it really led Matt to want to help founders in every space get access to support, to resources. And so, he just started a podcast with not having that in mind just yet. He started a podcast, forward-thinking founders, and he talked to founders at early stage startups who no one knew about at the time, right? And could potentially one day be unicorns,
right,
and have their startups be successful. And he realized he had a knack for scouting really good companies, and a lot of those companies went on to, fortunately went on to, raise capital, raise money, and benefit from it, and grow their businesses and scale. And so Matt wanted to scale his podcast, and he wanted more founders to be, involved in Seedscout so they can get access to hundreds of investors as well. And so we've gone through, in the past 3 months, we've gone through many iterations of what that looked like. We started off, with a $500 grant for podcasters. We realized that wouldn't be sustainable in the long run. And our ambition, beat us there for sure. And then the next iteration, which was and I'm just rambling right now. Hopefully, this.
No, that's it.
Yeah. But the next step was Matt had an awakening of how we could get more founders onto the database, and that was by using by bringing in scouts who wanted to start their podcast, and what we would be able to provide them was that we'd manage their podcast, we'd publish and host their
Their
podcast,
content. Yeah.
content, and and we'd help share it around around the internet and help them grow it and build their brand more than anything. They own their podcast and they can build their brand. And the only thing was that they were they were talking to founders that we would scout. And it would provide, a more real relationship, a real connection with the founder. And it wasn't just dependent on intros all the time. You had a conversation. It was a proof of connection. It was to show that you had met the founder, even if it was for just that day and you met them for the very first time that day. A conversation with someone is very intimate. It shows that you have something in common. We're all human. There's people behind the audio, behind the video. And so we took that approach and we used Calendly in their round robin feature to be able to scale that. So Matt would source startups and find startups and he'd pass them to the scouts to talk with. And Calendly, and it was working smoothly at first. And I even became a podcaster and I started my podcast and I was talking to founders and then Calendly wasn't the most optimal software to use for something like that. And meaning that people started getting interviews booked in the middle of the night. People were missing it because it conflicted with their schedules, and it was slow for operations. And then ultimately, I'll fast forward a little bit, but we truthfully just couldn't afford it anymore. Every time we'd bring on a scout, we'd have to pay for a new Trainual seat, a Calendly seat, a Zoom seat,
right?
And that adds up. And again, our ambition went there, but it's all part of the process. And I think that all these decisions that we make ultimately go into where we are now, which is just focused on link scouting. And link scouting is a more casual form of scouting. You don't need a podcast. All you need to do is, you'd go on the Seedscout website. If you're interested in being a scout, you'd sign up. You'd get your own unique link that is plugged into your email. So you'd have your email with it. And then you just, you'd pass that link on to founders that you find interesting, or friends that are working on something that could be great in the hey, you mind if I scout you? And they fill out a type form with their information, and then they go on to answer video questions, which is the quality. Video questions are it's the second version of what video questions they answer with their responses, and that counts as a successful scout. But we have 3 laws of scouting at Seedscout, and those 3 laws are when everyone's a genius, you be an idiot, which means that you have to see what what others don't. Always look for things that you believe in when no one else believes in and believes in it, and follow your instincts and your intuition when it comes to that. Another one is invest in better telescopes. There are people who believe that there are no more good founders in the world, that they have to make founders now. They have to produce them like if they were at a factory. You have to make new founders. But so instead of looking for more stars, you invest in better telescopes because they're out there all over the world. It's not just in a certain region.
Right. You just gotta dig. Yeah.
You have to dig for those people that are working hard on their missions every day, and what we like to call missionaries. They're doing it for a bigger purpose. They're not doing it for the riches. They're not doing it for for fame or for clout. They're doing it because they really believe in their mission. They're missionaries. And then the third law of scouting is interesting over successful. Interesting companies always have a way of finding a way. I think those founders find a way to to be able to be successful, and that will turn out to be successful. But because successful can be deceiving, and I think if you find something interesting that you really believe in, then that can change. That I think that's a better filter to use. And
how do you guys finding all these jewels? I mean, is that all through social media? How are you guys going out, especially right now with COVID? Still restrictions coming back on. how,
Right.
starting this, sounds great and it's pretty ambitious, but how do you find all this diamonds in the rough?
Right. Twitter. Twitter. Twitter
Short
is,
answer, it's Twitter. Yeah.
Twitter. One of the first things that Matt taught me, when I first came into the office was Twitter is an asset. He's like, he's like, build it up. He's like, Twitter is something that is powerful, underrated at times. And he, Matt likes to tweet a lot. And so he'll tweet, I'm looking for, great startups to scout, reply to me with your URL and a one-liner, and I'll send you a link to get scouted. And it really is just like that. It's simple. It's Twitter. People, want to be scouted. People want to be involved with Seed Scout, and that's how we're going about sourcing.
Okay, and yeah, that's how I find you guys. Yeah, that's how we connect. And I'm not a heavy. Actually, I rarely use Twitter. To be honest, I'm actually not super proficient in social media. I'm trying to be just private, but every once in a while, get the news, I get my feeds, and like, hey, I'm gonna go into this because that's where you can get that little sense of community, especially right now, being locked in again, for the last 18 months. So that's the only kind of like just connection to the outer world that we have.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. I mean, I'm with you. I'm not proficient at Twitter either. I mean, I am. I'm still getting used to it. Still seeing how that animal works.
Yeah.
And so, but yeah, I'm with you on that. Gonna try being more active on Twitter for sure. But yeah. And so yeah, ultimately at the end of the day, Seed Scout is helping the founders that are showing that they need resources. They've earned resources and they haven't been getting it. We want there to be a better filter for investors to get to them. We want there for it to be open and a level playing field for everyone. Everything is going to be, everyone gets a chance no matter what.
That's great. No, that's fantastic. And how's that, in Tempe, how's the ecosystem right now? I mean, we're hearing, obviously Silicon Valley, Seattle, Chicago, New York, but now this, smaller orbits like Austin are popping up, with great smaller ecosystem. I even talked to a founder out of Fresno, and she's doing phenomenal. I think she already raised $60 million, in her startup, and they're really cranking it. So all these cities that weren't, let's call on the map, quote unquote, on the map before, Sedona now, Fresno, first time in Detroit, they weren't necessarily startup communities, and now they're just like blossoming. So how's that in Tempe right now?
Oh yeah, me and Matt love to hype up Tempe. We love to hype up Tempe. We see Tempe being the future, and it is the capital of startups in Arizona and innovation, for many reasons. I mean, we have Arizona State's university's campus, like literally right here. We're in it. It's right down the street.
Okay.
And ASU is number one in the innovation in the world. We have a lot of students who are bright, a lot of students who are hungry, and a lot of students who want to contribute with their unique skills in engineering and technology and finance. So the Tempe ecosystem right now is growing. We want it to grow. Me and Matt are always on the lookout for it to bring great talent into Tempe to keep building the ecosystem. And there are a lot of great bright minds that are working on their ideas here. Even here at the WeWork, we have a sports tech company right in front of us, that is being led by a very, young gentleman. We have another sports tech company here in Tempe, also by a young gentleman, that they're going forward with their goals. And Tempe is definitely going to be on the rise when it comes to startup, when it comes to tech, and just when it comes to community in general. I think community is going to be very strong here with companies like Cul-de-sac. They're building neighborhoods, carless neighborhoods, and Tempe is their home grounds for that. Companies like Carvana, which is right across the street from us.
Oh, yeah.
right across the river, Carvana, are doing, exceptional things over there, and led by Ernie Garcia, I believe Ernie Garcia, the CEO, and Robin Hood, who's right upstairs, there. And so it's growing, these companies are realizing.
Is Robin Hood based in Tempe?
Robin Hood is not based in Tempe, but they do have an office, right?
They have an office, okay. Okay.
Yeah. Amazon is in the same building. We have companies that are early stage startups, but they are contributing to business overall. Companies like Footprint is Arizona based, and they're building sustainable packaging for companies, and Intel, bringing in the new semiconductor factories over into Chandler. So Arizona as a whole, Tempe being the startup capital, there's only room to grow. I jokingly, well, not jokingly, because I really meant it. About 5 years ago, before I even got involved in technology or startups or wanted to become passionate about investing and about all those sorts of things, I said that Phoenix is going to be the largest city in the United States within 10 years. It's going to be there. Okay. And it's been slowly climbing. I think when I said that, Phoenix was at number 5 or 6. Now we're at number 4. Going into getting tight into Chicago pretty soon.
Oh wow!
But I mean, there's a lot of open space in Arizona, especially in Phoenix, and so I see it growing. I see a lot of businesses starting out here for sure.
No, totally. I mean, the only we'll get down there and visit soon. As soon as the temperatures cool down a little bit into the 80s, into the mid 80s, when it's more tolerable.
There you go. Yeah, for sure. And feel free. Hey, when you're here, hit me up. I'll tour you around Sedona. I know Sedona a lot better than I do Phoenix, but
I would love to
for sure. Yep.
Yeah. No, I want to go see what the ecosystem's doing. There've been a lot of things here in Portland that don't right, and it's a more mature. It's with more companies that have come out and done IPOs. Companies that have been already acquired. I'm sorry. But yeah, I mean, we'll love to contribute, to see, what can be done, especially in the Latino community, because, as you can see, same plight that we hear from Sedona to Seattle and New York is that there's, little representation. There's little access to, like you said, services, mentorships, and a support system. Not only for all the startups, but more, for the Latino founder, for Latino founders in our community.
Right.
So. And you probably see it, there. You're probably one of the few minorities in the ecosystem. And so, like, well, why can't there be more if the entrepreneurship is in our DNA? I mean, all our parents are entrepreneurs. I mean, especially coming here to the U.S. I mean, why aren't we out there? And it's because we I don't know. I actually don't know the answer to that question.
Yeah, it's difficult to find the answer to that question. There definitely needs to be, because you're right. Latinos are entrepreneurs by blood since a very early age.
Absolutely.
And it's admirable. You respect it. Every time I visit, in Mexico, you see children, hustling, selling their mazapan, selling their tamal de capulins, and they're there because they know that they want to help their family. They want to be involved. They feel proud of doing it. And is it always easy? No, it's not. But just like it won't be easy to get more minorities involved in tech, the best way that can be done is just through making it global, not focusing on one region. And I think that's the first step to helping just any minority, underrepresented, under-resourced founder in the world. But yeah, and so and for many reasons, I think Tempe is growing just for its size. It's very similar, dare I say, to Silicon Valley. From its size, it's very similar. You got companies like Robinhood, Cul-de-sac, I said this already, but like Robinhood, Cul-de-sac, Air Garage came from Tempe, and they're a growing company. And number one in innovation.
Well, the university, that usually helps, to have an innovation center. Like, well, Silicon Valley had Stanford, so
Right, right. And it looks like, there, if I, look out of my little rocket, airproof little thing that I'm in, you'll see that, ASU President Crow has, is building great, skyscrapers for the purpose of innovation.
Innovation.
Right?
Yeah.
It'll look completely different after the call. I'll look for the picture of, of how it looks like right now, how it can look like in a few years. But definitely, yep.
Well, that's exciting to hear, and hopefully we can see more representation, because we know there's a large Latino population in Arizona, but again, it's not represented, it's not always included in the conversations or into this new wave. So hopefully we can get hopefully you're the precursor of that. People like you.
I hope to make an impact there. I do want to help Latinos who are younger than me, older than me. And give them the opportunity for that. That will be one of my missions in life, is to always help that community in every city. One of my future goals is actually to move to Mexico City. That's what I want. I love Mexico City. I want to live there one day. And when I do live there one day, I want to be able to help the founders in all of Mexico, but in Mexico City, either with, introducing them to partners, introducing them to customers, introducing them to, to investors. I'd like to invest in some. And I think it all boils down back to generosity. I think that's what it comes down to. And that's one of the major steps of helping these, us minorities, move into tech, is generosity. And just apoyando everyone.
Yeah.
One of the narratives that bothers me the most, and you hear it and it just becomes so common and people laugh about, is that el peor enemigo de un mexicano es otro mexicano. Like I want to switch that narrative, and it's always been said, and it shouldn't be said, because it just keeps on putting gas into the fire. And I want to help change that narrative. I want there to be, no, he is Latino, he's Mexicano, and for that reason, I'm also going to help him. Just because he becomes successful in his field, now you don't have to throw hate at the guy. You may disagree with him, but you don't have to. It happens like in sports all the time. For example, with Canelo, with Vela, Carlos Vela, it happens. And
it's envy. A lot of that is envy, or who knows. But absolutely, and that's also what we've been trying to do. So we're working on a lot of parallels, trying to get other people to come on board. So look, not because that guy is successful and is making money, that's bad. It's actually we should applaud and say, hey, congrats, I want to be like you.
Right. And what's the opposite of envidia? Generosity. And that's I think that's the first step, and just getting that mindset and helping people have that mindset is going to go a long run. It's going to go a long way, for sure.
Well, Benny, you're on the right path. And if you do end up in Mexico City, let me know, because we do have a lot of contacts down there in the small but growing ecosystem. So let us know, how can we help?
That'd be great. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I'll definitely let you know. Since our first time talking, it was 2 months ago. Me caes bien. You're a good person, and
thank you.
I mean that wholeheartedly. You stood out to me for sure. And all
right, Benny. Well, now you got a friend in Portland, and I got a friend in Tempe. So I'll come visit again. My once the temperature hit 80, then I come.
And no sooner. No, if it's 81, todavía no. You have to wait until it's 80.
No. To wait. In the meantime, right now, I'm just right here inside. Just waiting for we're supposed to hit 100 again today. And I don't know if you guys heard some alarms on my phone, which I have them silenced, but this is an emergency. I'm going to show you.
Oh, right.
So the weather advisory, 104 today.
Oh my gosh! Wow! Yeah, I got one yesterday for different reasons. It was a dust storm. We have haboobs here, and the huge dust storms that take over the city, and so they're like, "Stay in your houses or pull over."
So I apologize for the alarm, but the phones are in silence, but those alarms overtaken. Like, wow, this is unusual time. So Benny, thank you so much for coming to the show. I really appreciate it. And we're going to stay in touch, because I want to learn more about Seedscout. How can we help, especially in the growing Latino ecosystem that we're building, not only through the podcast, but, through through intros. And we'll love, just like you were saying in the mission, how can we help each other out?
Yeah, right. Of course. Yeah. Thank you for having me. I appreciate you to take the time and inviting me to have this conversation with you. I really enjoyed it. It was my first podcast as a guest, and it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. And yeah, and if anyone has any questions about Seedscout, feel free to DM me on Twitter at BennyFG. I'd be more than happy to elaborate a lot more and a lot more clearly on what we're doing. And yeah, and also Benny at seedscout.com, not .com, .co.
.co.
Yeah, Benny at Seedscout. Benny at seedscout.co. Yes. And send me an email. I'm always open to chat and explain what's being done here, and how we could possibly help each other, for sure. So thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Thanks everyone for listening, and see you next week.
Take care.